All right, let's talk about the most important document you've probably never read. Seriously, it's the ultimate rulebook that basically sets up how an entire country works, from who gets to be in charge all the way down to your most basic rights. We're talking about a nation's constitution.
So let's do a little thought experiment. I want you to imagine you're starting a brand new country. You've got millions of people, right? And they all have different ideas, different backgrounds, different beliefs. What is the absolute first thing you would need to stop everything from turning into total chaos? Well, you'd need a rulebook, a single master plan that everyone, and I mean everyone, can agree on. Think of it like the official rules for a giant team sport, where every single citizen is on the same team. And that rulebook, that's what a constitution is.
Okay, so let's unpack that textbook definition. At its heart, a constitution is just a big written agreement. It's a document that says, okay, this is how we're going to do things around here. It sets out what the government can and can't do, it spells out the rights of the people, and it defines the core values that hold the whole country together.
So what's actually inside this rulebook? You might think it's just a long, boring list of laws, but it's so much more than that. Its first, and maybe its most important job, is to define what the nation is all about. You know, its heart and soul.
This is the really big picture stuff, the vision. It's kind of like a team's mission statement. It answers the huge question, what kind of country are we trying to be? It lays out all those shared ideals, things like freedom, equality, justice, that everybody is supposed to be working towards together.
Right, so we've got a shared vision. That's great. But why is it so incredibly important to have it written down in a constitution? Well, it's because this rulebook provides 3 super powerful safeguards that are there to protect every single person in the country.
Think of these 3 safeguards as the Constitution's superpowers. First, it puts limits on leaders so they can't just do whatever they want. Second, it protects every community, especially smaller groups, from getting pushed around by the majority. And third, and this one is a little weird, it actually saves us from ourselves by stopping us from making really bad decisions when we're scared or angry. Let's dig into those last 2 a little more.
This brings us to a really important idea called the tyranny of the majority. Look, in a democracy, the majority usually gets its way, right? But what if the majority votes for something that's really unfair or harmful to a smaller group? Well, the Constitution acts like a shield. It has rules built right in to make sure that minority communities are protected, and that being fair means more than just winning a vote.
Now, this next idea might sound a little strange at first. A constitution is there to save us from ourselves. But think about it. Imagine there's a huge crisis, and everyone is panicking. People might get so scared that they say, let's just get a dictator to fix everything. A good constitution acts like a safety brake. It makes the basic rules of the country really hard to change, which prevents a moment of panic from completely destroying the long-term foundations of democracy.
Now, this isn't just a bunch of abstract ideas. Let's look at one of the most amazing and ambitious rulebook writing projects in all of human history, the making of India's Constitution.
You have to understand this process was a marathon, not a sprint. The idea for their own rulebook started way back in 1934, but it wasn't until December of 1946 that about 300 representatives from all across the country could finally sit down together. And then they spent almost 3 years, debating, arguing, and drafting every single detail before the Constitution was finally ready in 1949. That just shows you what a massive job this was.
And just try to imagine the challenges they were facing. They had to unite a country with this mind-boggling diversity of languages, religions, and cultures. They were also dealing with the fresh wounds of partition and the fact that most people were living in extreme poverty. Their goal was to create one single document that could hold this incredibly complex nation together and build a true democracy from scratch.
Okay, so we've talked about some big ideas and looked at a huge historical example. But what does any of this actually have to do with you? Why should you care about this old rulebook today?
This is the most important takeaway of all. A constitution isn't just some dusty old book sitting in a museum. It is a living, breathing document. It's the reason you have the right to speak your mind. It's why leaders can't just do whatever they feel like, and it's why your voice matters. It is actively protecting your rights and shaping your future every single day.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought. Since this rulebook belongs to everyone, shouldn't everyone have a say in it? If you could add just one new rule to your country's constitution to make it even better for the future, what would it be? Really think about it. Thanks for tuning in.